Today, over 1 billion children in the world live in poverty. At Help Heal Humanity, our goal is to connect children in need with people like you who want to make a difference. Our student sponsorship program helps provide children with the necessities for a healthy and successful start to life. When you sponsor a student, you're not only giving them the gift of education, you're giving them the best chance for a brighter future. 100% of your donation supports the tuition fees, uniforms, textbook, and school supplies needed to thrive in a safe and healthy learning environment. Sponsor a student now and be the catalyst for their brighter future.
Hey, hello, Miss Lady Queen, awesome, wonderful person, friend, and co-host.
Ditto, right back at you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing I could not wait for this show because I just, again, just giving you the love here.
Okay.
You always inspire me over and over again just to live life at its fullest. I mean, just you seeing you on that Harley, just you that's on that motorcycle. I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. Just do what you do.
Yeah, and it was such a fun day. It was just a beautiful day.
I can tell.
3-hour drive. And you know, and it's so funny how sometimes, you know, I'm all about life lessons. And as Sherry and I were standing there, it was, all right, well, where are we going to go? And I said, well, you know what? That's going to be my life. But like, where are we going to go? And but isn't that, you know, and that was what the live was about. It was like, you might not know where you're going, but at least get on the bike. And that was the life lesson for that day. And we did. We just got on the bike and took off. And it was like, all right, let's see where we turn. And we had absolutely, it was a beautiful 3-hour ride.
Wow.
And it was just absolutely amazing. And, you know, and that's the thing about life. Just get on the bike. Whatever your bike is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, it might be write a book, or it might be start a business, or it might be go walk, start a dog walking service. You don't know. And you don't have to know all the details.
Yeah.
Just get on the bike.
Yes.
And you know, and one of the things for me is the next step will appear. But you have to, but it's our responsibility. And I'm talking to myself here.
Me too. You're talking to me too.
The things I talk about tend to be the things that I need to get in my brain. Get on the bike.
Get on the bike.
That first step.
Yeah.
Whatever that first step is. And you know what? I truly believe that, you know, like in my case, I call it God. Other people call it universe, source, divine, whatever you call that. Intuition. Every one of us has it. Step into it. So if that's for you today, step into it. Just sit down and listen. You will get a little nudge. I call them like instant downloads. It's a little nudge that, ooh, I can do that. And it'll be like, really? But I go and do it. Because that one little whatever it is leads to something else.
Mm-hmm.
That's how this show started. You, thank you so much. You had the nudge to start a network. Yeah. You had a nudge to start, let's do a happiness show. Ooh, let's ask Barb.
Yeah.
I, of course, said, I would love to. I won't do it alone. Because I love being part of a team. And so this has been just such a great, and now 2 years later, here we still are.
I love when you're just our cheer. You're just like our main cheerleader when it comes to this show. I just love it. And like you said, it all just takes, just do it. Well, maybe what was it? The commercial Nike. They were right. They were right. That always seemed like it pops up no matter what era you're in. Just do it.
Just do it. And it does, and you don't have to do the whole thing.
No. Start. Just
get out of your way, people. You don't have to do the whole thing today. But take one step.
Take one step and see what happens. Yeah.
Take one step and see where it takes you.
Yeah.
Do one little thing.
Now, I'm just going to go with this because I love what you're talking about. This is some wonderful wisdom and golden nuggets. So I want to take this a little bit on the business side. With Absolutely. Me, what happened, just 2 weeks ago. So, we're always, I think us as business people, business women in business are always looking to help others, right? That's the biggest thing. I mean, besides making money. Okay, I'll put the money to the side.
We're not going to send back the check.
Yeah,
however, However, that's not our main focus.
As long as they don't bounce, but no, I'm just kidding. So yeah, so let's put it to the side for a minute. But I mean, the main thing too is really to help people, get to where they need to go, right? So I'm always looking in my business of what product and services can I offer to get to them to the next level? Because that's just, that's what my heart is. And I was noticing, and I said, you know what? Everybody in business should have some type of business plan, even if it's a one-pager. I mean, just something to tell you what your mission is, whatever, right? So I was thinking, Barbara,
right,
I can take that because I'm always, especially I work with a lot of people with my package and stuff with the social media, and really making them understand how to strategically do it. So I said, I created a social media business plan course. And it was a download. Like you said, it was
instant downloads.
It was an instant download. And I was like, wait a minute. And then all of a sudden, Barbara, all this stuff started coming out after that instant download. And I created this package for
how long did it take you?
And it took me probably an hour.
Exactly. Because followed the first step.
I followed the download. Like you and me are both with the God. I mean, I believe in God. Jesus just give me the download. And then from that point, I already had this. See, he showed me something else too. He said, well, Barbara, you got the tools. All you do is repurpose those tools, put them together, and put it back. And I was like, yeah, I don't have to think about this for 5 or 6 weeks. This thing, because when you think about it, Barbara, I'm putting off, when I put off things or when I take things too long, then I'm prolonging people that can work to help them by me prolonging. Yeah. So I got excited.
I know, it rejuvenates you when you take that first little inspired action. Now, if you, on the other hand, if you had said, "Okay, I'll work on that later,"
well, that sometimes happens too. I'm just gonna be open, like you said, with full disclosure. Sometimes that does happen.
However, sometimes the magic comes off of it, and then it's like, ooh, that was a good idea. But it doesn't just flow. It took you an hour because you got into what I call the mind flow. So you had a mindset of what you had, because your mindset is to help people. Yeah. Well, then you had a little shift because you listened to that little download. Well, of course, what happened almost immediately, you went into mind flow. Within an hour, you had the whole thing. That's what we're talking about. Mindset to mind shift to mind flow.
Ooh. The 3 M's.
We all have it. We all have it available to us, but we have to get that. We do have to do that first little whatever it is.
And you know what now that you can create that like a little course or whatever. The 3 M's about mind, about the mind.
Your mind.
You just did the different areas.
Right. And that's tying into my positivity. And I have set a date, August 20th. I am starting to teach it. I'm back from vacation getting it. And a friend of mine said, "Oh, you are so, that you've already set a date." I haven't set a date for my first one. I said, if I don't set a date, I won't do it. Set a date,
Yeah.
you got to get stuff done. And since I've done that, yesterday, I talked to a gal that she's in the same boat that she's in the same spot that I am. We're similar age, we have similar visions, and we're going to work together to get it all done. It's like, okay, when you take that first step, the universe is going to help you.
It comes, yeah.
You don't have to on your own.
Your way. Yeah, people, place, and things will come your way. Yes.
People, things, programs, sources, resources, all sorts of things. Like one of the things that came along for me was I had heard of a thing called, I'm going to give them a plug, of Buffer. And it's I think you probably know Buffer. It's for doing social media. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, okay. But one of the things she said, oh, one of the things I liked about Buffer is that you can make like a little landing page type of thing. Oh, okay, let me go look at it. Well, I have a whole little landing page for my Aging Gracefully website. And I'm like, and I've gotten my first client from it.
See? All because somebody told you, you took action with it, and there you go.
And so now I'm going to start one for my positive intelligence class. So that was, I said, oh, let me see if I can make another one. And it's just, so it just starts. So my inkling for today, this is summer. Okay, this is summer. So what are we doing for summer things? Well, one of the things that came across my desk was the National Calendar Day. Well, today is National Daiquiri Day. So, okay, so National Daiquiri Day. And here is me from that I'm a non-drinker. I mean, an occasional glass of wine, an occasional glass of peanut butter whiskey. That's about it. Totally different things, but once in a great while. But anyways, I was a bartender for many years. And one of the hardest drinks that I used to terribly could not make worth a darn was a daiquiri. So I set up, it was like they just did, this doesn't taste right. And so consequently, I wouldn't make them. And then it was like, for heaven's sakes, Barbara, if you are going to be professional, you are going to, I don't care that you don't think you can make these, you are going to learn how to make them and get it to the right portions and get it so that it tastes good. Well, then I became the strawberry daiquiri queen. But anyways, daiquiris started back in 1898.
Really? Wow.
So I was like, oh, National Daiquiri Day, and I said, well, I'm going to look. Well, this guy, and I'm going to read it to you. It was during the Spanish-American War, and he was an American engineer, and his name was Jennings Fox. But they were doing a mining thing where they were blowing up this wherever they were. And so, but at the end of the day, they would all get together and have these what they name. He said, well, I'm going to name them after where we are. So that's how it got its name. It's Bacardi, rum, it's lime, and sugar. Okay. Well, over that, but time goes on, and people always want to improve. So if you have that life lesson here, if you have an idea that you think somebody else has started, just do one little thing to improve it. It now becomes yours. Tip. So that's a little life lesson of nugget. Okay. So then people started adding shaved ice. Well, then in 1909, Admiral Johnson of the U.S. Navy medical officer, he tried the drink and introduced it to the Army and Navy Club in Washington, D.C. So now you've got the Army and Navy guys. This is how things can progress. So just start.
Just with
from that one little thing. So now the daiquiri was also one of the favorite drinks of Ernest Hemingway and President John Kennedy.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, this is knowledge is powerful.
So this is, and so now people are using it with lemonade and with limeade, and they're putting, like with me, one of my specialties became strawberry daiquiris.
I love strawberry daiquiris.
Strawberry daiquiris. Because it's the way of getting the balance of the sweet and the sour. Well, and now they have mixes and stuff for it. So, but isn't that from one little idea?
Yeah.
Start your idea, people.
Well, I like you just said, you mentioned, I'll throw this in with the daiquiri thing.
Yes.
With the daiquiri, like you just said, they made it much easier for all of us. Like you said, Barbara, when you were doing it, I knew you had to do it the way that the old-fashioned way says. But now you got the mixed crushed ice alcohol. That's all you need. You just mix crushed ice alcohol in a blender.
And you're done.
Yeah.
But back in 1898.
Boy,
so 1898 was the first time this Jennings Cox. So, but look at how far it's come.
To the point how simplified they made it.
And how simplified they have made it. So that's why I really believe that's the life lesson for today. Just start. Get on the bike.
Get on the bike. Create a program.
And I have the tailpipe burned to I was sliding off, caught the edge of the tailpipe. And so now, of course, I've got a burn on the back of my leg. And it's like, I said, but you know what? The thing is, it was such a glance that it was like, oh yeah, okay. It was just a little, because it was just such a glance until afterwards. And I have to say, it hasn't really hurt. I mean, I notice it's there because it's healing really well. But it was just the funniest thing because a friend of mine said, Barb, what's on your leg? I said, oh, and then she looked at me, she said, the tailpipe, right? And I went, yep, but I had fun on the ride. So it was worth getting the tailpipe burn.
It was worth the tailpipe burn. And this is proof that I had fun, right?
This is the proof that I had fun. And that's so that's the final life lesson of the day. So you get a little bruise somewhere, you have a little bruise somewhere to show that you were on the ride. At least you were on the ride.
I just see, I told you, I love all your downloads and your golden nuggets, Barbara. You come with it every week. And I hope you're taking notes because, okay, I'm going to give a little tip before we bring our queen on, our guest on. I'm going to give you a little tip, everybody. This is a social media tip that I always have some kind of somewhere you can write, pad of paper, pen, wherever. It can even be a napkin. I don't care. And when those downloads come with those golden nuggets like Barbara always has, because she should have a list of them. Those are your brand quotes. Use those quotes to post, and then put a caption over it of a teachable moment. There's a wonderful post, and you branded yourself because now it's your own quote that people will follow. Yes. So Barbara, you should have a book. You should have a book.
It's in the I am. That's it's on my list. But make sure you let's put a hashtag. Make sure you put anything you post. I mean, Barb will tell you this. Anything you post, make sure you put your name has your hashtag.
That's another. Yeah, that's another good tip. Thank you. Yeah.
Put your name.
Yeah, I just don't want people missing out on them quotes because that's just so, to me, that's powerful. We're always, because we all have our own quotes that we like from other people.
Yeah, from other people.
I mean, I have, you and I, we all do have quotes we love from other people. And I'm like, but you got downloads every day that you can quote or little, teachable ones that you gave somebody real quick. Use them. Right. Build your brand from them. Yes. Yeah. And then, like Barbara said, put a hashtag Barbara Ellis. Or put hashtag Barbara Ellis quote.
Right. But And so like what you just reminded me, said like, just get on the bike. I think it's going to be a hashtag. I'm going to go look and see if there's a hashtag. Just get on the bike.
Okay, with that said, we're gonna bring in you. So I'm telling you, Barbara, we're gonna bring in our wonderful queen here, our guest,
Irene Vasberg's transformation.
My body becomes like a cement. Oh my God.
That was the better one.
Okay. Oh my God.
God Health can manage your pain.
Literally like that.
Wellness Science, drug-free without invasive treatments, HPT socks. Contact Irene Vasberg, Independent Vox Life Associate. For more information, call 3234-282-499 to get with Irene today.
And although it may seem a little mundane, packing up boxes and, being on the assembly line, what we're really doing is putting in hundreds of hours into the people on the streets who need us. And they need us in a way that none of us will ever understand. And for the last couple of weeks, I've been on the grounds every day. They know we're coming today, they know we're coming tomorrow, and they look forward to seeing us because we're the one little bit of hope that they have to have a warm meal in their bellies and to know that somebody in the world is actually caring for them and loving them. And without people like you showing up today to give your time, your energy, and your spirit, none of this is possible. So I want to really say thank you to everyone, because what we're doing here today may seem small, but it's actually really, really big, and it's impacting hundreds and thousands of families. So I thank you, I love you, I look forward to doing this with you today. My name is Serena Buffalino, and I am the founder of Help Heal Humanity. Help Heal Humanity is a charity that is focused on unconditional giving, love, and support to some of the most vulnerable communities in the world.
And hello, how are you doing today, Mary Jane?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Barbara. So nice to be here.
Ah, so glad to have you. Hello, how are you doing today, Mary Jane?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Barbara. So nice.
Okay, why are we having an echo?
So glad to have
Barb Beckley. Okay, there we are. All right. We love technology. This morning was one of those mornings where Barbara and I weren't able to come on at the beginning, so we did part of a replay. But now we're actually live. So but this is absolutely, I love technology. Okay, so yeah, someone has their phone on. Yeah, no. Okay, do you have your phone on? No, we're good. All right. Anyway, so Mary Jane, I am so glad that you are here today. One of the things that I wanted to, I loved your one on your profile. You did the surviving the business of dying. That was so, it touched my heart because as you know, when I lost my husband, it was so, because I took care of him for a couple of years, that we were able to do some of the things ahead of time, and yet it never prepares you. Because I took care of him for a couple of years, that we were able to do some of the things ahead of time, and yet it never prepares you. Because I took care of him for a couple of years, that we were able to do some of the things ahead of time. Okay. Let's ask Barb what's happening. You have Facebook open, Mary Jane? Oh, get out of Facebook. You know, we love technology when it works, and we love technology when it doesn't.
So I think it works now.
Yeah. So yeah, you have to click. Yeah, because you were hearing the Facebook show because we were going live to Facebook.
My bad. I apologize.
Oh, hey, you know, this is the fun part of the show, of doing live.
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe the things that have happened to Barb and I, where we're like, okay, what was that?
Well, now I know I won't do that again. I was trying to see what I was doing where I
Oh,
was. But anyhow,
no,
we're here now.
We're just live, and then you'll get the replay, which is perfect. Anyways, awesome. Yeah. That was a lesson that I had to learn when I was doing my podcast too. Because one day I'm like, oh, what's happening? It was like, well, Barb, you're in Facebook too. Close Facebook and only come on to StreamYard. So anyways, yeah, because StreamYard's a great platform. Anyway, so Mary Jane, tell us about you and how you got to be where you are and what you're doing. And because this is a subject that most people don't like to talk about.
Absolutely. It's still verboten, which is hard to believe. Anything is, but it is. Yeah. So my story started with the simple fact that my husband died suddenly, literally in the car seat next to me. After being well, but not seeing a doctor, he relied upon Dr. Google. And it went on from there. And the biggest thing was I didn't have any directions. I had no papers at all, no medical directive, but I'll tell that story in a moment. No will and no partnership papers. And sticking to the matter at hand, by week 2 after the funeral, and family and partner and whoever else thought they should be involved asking me, where's this, where's that? I kind of pulled myself back. You know how Woody Allen in his movies takes himself out of a scene and then comments on it? Yeah. I think somehow I did that because I just started to watch the circus. So one tip I could give off the top of this is simply when people keep saying, well, what about that? And what about this? And I told you about this. And tones of voice change. And you recognize, you start seeing parts of people you never knew existed. And all you can say is, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. Change that to, I'll get back to you. I'll be back to you.
You know what? And that is such a cool thing because you know what? You can say that to anything.
Yes.
That is a great life lesson, not just dealing when you're dealing with something that you really don't know. Hey, you know what? I'll get back to you on that. I love that. Thank you very much. I'll take that.
And you can change that with tone of voice also. Yes. Depending on who's asking, when they're asking, you're obviously preoccupied, or how they're, if it's none of their business. And so to just sit up straight and say, I'll get back to you. And they retreat. They go back under the rocks from which they came. And it was almost magical. And I have a survivor sense of humor. I'm of an Irish background, and people get cornered and you're really at your best almost, not mean, but you're like, do not challenge me.
Right.
And
Don't cross the line kind of thing.
right. And the day after he died, I got a call from the husband of a dear friend of mine, and he was always jovial and kind. I loved to visit them. And Mark said to me, Mary Jane, understand, you can do no wrong. And I kind of laughed it off. He said, and I heard from him a tone of voice I hadn't heard before. He said, grab this sucker by the throat and do it your way, and no one will question you.
Yes.
And I still get verklempt because it was an empowering moment.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see somebody who's beside themselves, doesn't know what end to touch first, march over or call them for real, not a text and not a voicemail. They need to hear you and the force behind it.
Yeah.
It will take them over that wave. It was enormous. So I had that in my pocket. 2 weeks later, my dining room looked like a war room.
Yeah.
And with all the piles of this and piles of that. And my father had been an attorney. I said, Daddy, I need you now. And because I didn't have a clue of what I was doing.
Right.
And
Because it was so sudden.
Well, and there was a whole backstory. That's another book, another time.
Yeah.
And I started keeping notes, and a week after that, I organized them. And through that whole 18-month period till that estate closed, I'd gone through 3 attorneys. I wrote a book.
Right.
And I made it Surviving the Business of Dying, Why Final Papers Matter.
Right.
And then, of course, I edited it 45 times. It was cathartic. It got all the angst out. And then I realized I really had a story to tell.
Right. I know when people don't even think about it. And one of the things that I really share with people, especially women, is make sure that you have a credit card in your own name where you are the primary. I went to buy the outfit that I was going to wear for my husband's funeral, and I went to JCPenney. Shouldn't even mention their name. But I went and give in my credit card, and she came back and she said, "Well, no, your credit card, it's been canceled." And then this little girl, a cashier, even the manager didn't come over and say anything. She looked at me. She said, "Did your husband pass away? Did your husband die?" And I said, "Well, yes, I'm getting, this is the outfit that I'm wearing for the funeral." She said, "Oh, your account's been canceled." That's how I found out the first one. The second one, my card wouldn't go through. And I went and I called them, and he said, well, your husband, we got notified, because they get notified. They were notified, "Oh, your husband has passed away." They don't even use that. They say, "Your husband died." Not the greatest thing in the world to hear. And I said, "But I'm an authorized user on this card." And he said, "Yeah, but when your husband died, he rescinded, that rescinds the authorization." I said, "Did he call you from heaven?" So there was me, no credit cards. But luckily I had one that I had not used in several years. They were not notified of my husband's death. So that was the blessing to me. But that's one of the things that I share with people all the time. Men, men and women.
Absolutely.
Make sure that you have a credit card in your own name where you are the primary. And in fact, my girlfriend was just going through it. She was getting a credit card, and I said, "Make sure it's in your name." She said, "What?" I said, "Make sure it is that you are the primary. You have to have at least one where you are the primary." And, just things like that.
Well, and so after my book, I created a workbook because people didn't know where to start.
Right. Yeah, right. And that's, you don't know, because you're so emotional anyways.
Well, you don't remember. Your brain shuts
remember.
down, and it's fight or flight.
Yeah.
and you want to do the right thing, and you are, you know, and you can't ask your family. So my current efforts are to eliminate all this angst and frustration, conversation on the sidebars of, oh, well, he would have or she would have. Number one, don't wait till there's a disaster. What we're speaking of can happen tomorrow if you slip on a banana peel and hit your head and cannot speak for yourself. Number one.
Oh, right, because it's not necessarily that they have died, it's that they could be incapacitated.
Absolutely.
Oh, right, that's such a good point.
And so my workbook allows you, it is not a legal document, though it could become one as a primary source of what you want done. And my workbook, which is the companion workbook to Surviving the Business of Dying, it has the detailed instructions, even for the will. If you're talking about going forward, it could be a planning instrument for a will. It talks to all the things in your home, your grandmother's jewelry, your father's awards that he won. Who's going to want these? Write it down. You could make it a good dinner conversation. Just what ifs. Meanwhile, don't forget to name the vet. What do you want to wear when you die? I have a story that goes with that. It's a silly item, but it's true, and it mattered. So you want to be cremated. That's fine. Then what? What do you want done with yourself? I was left with that. My book has the detailed instructions for what your heart wants your family to do. And it's not macabre, it's not a sad exercise. It really has nothing to do with you. It's about giving your family a gift of instructions so they don't have to go through what you went through and what I went through. What you went through, Barbara, I would say to any woman or partner out there, at the very least, and they don't need to know it now, make somebody a co-signer on your checking or your credit card, only to keep business moving. The banks, your utilities, they don't care that somebody died. They want their bill paid. And that much you can do. Oh, look at this. Barbara's sister Annie was named a co-signer. Obviously, name somebody capable and somebody you trust, but they can't use it until it's necessary. And they go to the bank and they realize they, in fact, can pay your bills.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things, like my husband and I, we had talked, we had time. I took care of him for 2 years because he had the big C word. And we knew it was coming. So we had time to talk about things and to, make some arrangements. We knew that he wanted to be cremated and all of those things. And yet when it came down to it, still there were I remember being in the fog. Of and for over a year. I don't really remember the first year after David passed away. I know I did things. The only thing I actually totally remember doing was I watched all 10 years of Frasier on Netflix.
Yeah.
I do remember doing that. Other than that, I don't remember it. And yet, one of the things that I did know, David died on October 21st. But we had his funeral on December 21st on his birthday.
Oh.
And that was something that we had talked about, is that, we wanted it to be a celebration, not a funeral.
And that's in my book. All the detail. It's not a big book. It is.
We'll put a link to it. We'll put a link to it. Yeah.
But I have those. It has sections, and within the sections, it's divided into different categories, and you can put those details in there. The beauty of the workbook is simply that everything's in one place.
Yes.
And she had a book, get the book. and you can find it. There's no magic to the book. It's a starter. It's a thought provoker. You can add anything you wish to it. Family stories. It's a workable living item. And I suggest if you have partners, each of you get your own, because everybody is just a little different.
Right.
And do it in pencil, because you might decide, nah, I don't want to do that.
Right. And one of the things that it just really struck me too is that this isn't just about end of life. This is about next week.
That's right.
Because what do you want to do next week? It could be a planning guide for anything.
Absolutely. I mean, you take a 5-day weekend or the trip of a lifetime for 3 weeks in Europe. You need this. You need to be able to, business goes on while you're gone.
Right. Exactly. I know. I just came back from 3 weeks of vacation, and it's like I've got a pile of mail on my desk. I've got a pile of mail on my desk. So 2 piles of mail because I was gone for like 3.5 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. And now I'm sifting through it. I can't imagine somebody else having
there
to
you go.
It.
Oh my goodness. What did she do here? And I created a person who's the segue between the executor for the will and the book, and it's a first lieutenant. You do tell somebody about the book and where to find it. It's not an open dinner conversation in general, unless you.
But it should be. Preparation should be. Planning for anything should be a fun thing. I mean, it's a sad occasion. Absolutely. But it doesn't have to be heartbreaking.
No, but I mean ahead of time.
Right. That's what I mean. It should be something that's talked about, and yet it's not.
The other thing, going back to the medical directive, that is something that is not a secret. You need to have that around you. Give a copy to your neighbor. If you fall and your neighbor finds you, he or she is going to be calling 911, but who's got the medical directive? Either put it in a kitchen drawer and show it to them so they know where it is, or give them a copy ahead of time. Put one in your night table, one in your kitchen somewhere, and some fire departments have that neat little sticky senior lives here, and and but if you have the wherewithal, should you be calling for someone else, make sure that the EMTs have it with the patient when they arrive at the hospital, because the hospital kicks in, and it's not the EMTs to make responsibility to make any decisions. They're always on the phone in touch with the hospital.
Right.
Put your directions with you on the way.
Right.
Because they'll kick in, and if you can't speak for yourself, they have to do what they need to do.
Right. Yeah. And it all comes down to preparation.
Absolutely.
I mean, we prepare for everything. We prepare for dinner parties. We prepare for vacations. We prepare for everything. And yet so often the one thing that we don't prepare for is when we are going to be unable to take care of ourselves.
Right. And it's a gift to who follows you.
Yeah.
It's a thinking that, well, they may be a bit. I have one son, he's in Seattle, and he could handle it, but he doesn't know New Bern, North Carolina, where I live. Right. So I have purposefully introduced him to a few of my new friends here. Right. So God forbid I slip on a banana peel, he'll know who's calling.
Right. 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 I know a friend of mine, she does a thing called legacy letters. And it is so nice to hear her talk about what legacy do you want to leave? And this is all part of it.
Yes.
Because do you want to leave just absolute chaos behind you?
That's right.
I have to admit, my husband and we never ever once thought of credit cards. Never once did we think of credit cards.
or passwords for your computer.
Oh yeah,
And,
that's
the
another story too.
password to unlock your phone. And
Yeah.
if it's facial recognition, I think that
Oh,
can
right.
come back to bite you. So really think that through.
Right. And I use facial recognition all the time.
Well, guess what?
Right.
You might want to find a
I'll have
workaround.
to put down where my phone code is. That's a good idea. Thank you. I'll do that.
Another technology is to name a social media administrator for all your accounts after you're gone. What do you want? And
Right.
Facebook has a legacy affidavit, as does LinkedIn.
Oh, wow.
All the different platforms have their own way of doing things, so it's not one paintbrush. You need somebody who, you cannot assume your attorney or executor knows all this stuff. So
Right.
if you know a capable person and their forte is technology, I would sign them up. It's a secondary position, but it is very necessary in these times.
See, you have totally enlightened me, which is why, that's what this show is about. Yes, this is the Time to Shine happiness show.
Yeah.
Happiness is knowing, take the burden off of you. That's part of it.
Peace of mind,
Having
not
peace
just
of
for
mind.
you. Right.
And right. I wouldn't. Okay, you have totally enlightened me. I would never have thought of social media because, and part of it is because I am, like, so much of what I do is online. Never even thought of, like, how would they cancel the accounts?
That's right.
That I have because some of the platforms I pay for.
Yeah.
That I use.
And a list of all the automatic withdrawals.
And all the automatic, right.
I have a portion. My little workbook is really worth its weight in gold.
We will absolutely put it out there. That's amazing. Yeah, just in what we've talked about in the last few minutes. Never would have thought of, like as I said, my husband and I, we had not thought of credit cards, and now I have never thought of social media. Wow. And the technology and passwords. Ooh, I'm gonna have to get your workbook.
In a pinch, when somebody just refuses to sign anything, and that's what I went through. I don't know, call it divine inspiration. He would not sign a medical directive, and I knew he was getting weaker. We were on our way to a business appointment. I just happened to see him in the living room sitting in his chair, and I had the Washington State medical directive. And I said it sternly but nicely. I was very frustrated with him. I said, how about I read this and I video you and you can shake your head or nod? He said yes. And I was like, holy cow. And I shake to begin with. So I was like all over the place. But I read and I just sat there with the phone and I got his directive on my phone.
Oh, wow.
It took about 20 minutes, but I got it. So we got in the car and we went to where we were going, and he had passed in the car seat next to me.
Wow.
And an hour later, I'm in the ER. People are arriving and this kind of thing. And the ER doctor came out to me. He said, do you have his papers? That's when they ask you for the medical directive.
Wow.
And it goes back to, had I had one, it would have been on his stomach, tucked in his pants on the way to the hospital.
Right.
That's how I learned that. But the doctor said that, and I said, no, I don't, but I have this. And he had never experienced that before. He said, may I have your phone? I said, absolutely. I'm sure he had to check with the powers that be, make sure it was legit. And that's how that went. Yeah, he was able to accept it.
Yeah.
And
because
so,
what happens if you don't have something like that?
You run home and get it. Or if you do not have any medical directive, and it varies per state. So you want to make sure what the rules are in a worst case scenario. If you're both at the hospital, one of two things. If you know you have one, you got to go home and get it. Actually, one of three things. Thirdly, if you've done your final papers and a will with an attorney, which we did not, I would absolutely expect that attorney to have a copy, in which case they can, take a picture and send it to the hospital.
Right.
And lastly, know the rules ahead of time. It might come down to a family consensus. If you try not to be the only one who has had the conversation with the person.
Right.
That puts you in a corner if there's any challenge. I'm not an attorney. The law of averages and Murphy's Law can kick in really fast. It might come down to a family consensus.
Right.
I don't know how that would work.
Yeah.
Everything is different state to state.
Right. Okay, well, Mary Jane, this has been so informative. I mean, a touchy subject for so many people, and yet such a necessary subject. So we have like 2 minutes, like a minute left. What would be a final word of wisdom that would be just really helpful for people that are, because we are all going to face it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but we are.
We prepare for earthquakes and hurricanes and babies, and all good, not good things, but we're ready. You need to be ready for this, and just have it. It looks like a coloring book, and make it non-confrontational. It's just a conversation.
Right. Absolutely. Mary Jane, this has been so enlightening. Thank you so much for coming on. Because you know what? I'm on a mission to make happiness the norm rather than the exception. And part of happiness for me is peace of mind.
Yes.
And when you know that you are prepared for something, that in the eventuality, because this is absolutely going to happen, you might be it's to either your family or you yourself. And when I look back on my journey, it was like, oh brother, I wish I had been a little bit more prepared. And even just knowing what you've shared with us today was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And it's your peace of mind.
Yeah.
Think of the peace of mind when the family sees the instructions in your hand and your language. It's the greatest gift.
Right. Oh, wow. This is awesome. Well, Barb's going to be Barb Beckley. She's in the back of the house. She does all the back stuff. So I never know quite when she's going to end the show. So I am just so grateful that you were here, but come back, come next week. We're going to be here next week. We have a great show lined up for you. And just remember that it is your time to shine. And you can shine in everything, and be prepared for everything and have fun doing it. Because so much of it is in your attitude. It's not what happens to you. It's how you react to what happens to you. So this has just been a great thing of preparation. Be prepared. So life happens.